All right, friends, it's T-Man. We are back with a brand new video. It's going to be on just a good friend, JasonBlaha, again. The gym, lifting, recruiting, fitness, gear slave himself, JasonBlaha. So we're going to react to his video. So Blaha says, barbell lifts should be our foundation. Okay, I can't wait.
Barbell exercises should always be our foundational lifts. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys would please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you aren't following me or subscribed, please.
I would, but you have me banned, so unfortunately. I did talk to you in your live feed a bit ago. I think you had this live feed. You're in the street talking there. I did write you, and I think you were shocked when you saw me write you. I think you can see the comments when it's coming in. You can see me writing you. That's why you paused for a moment, because I asked you a question about the videos that I did on you. Do you like those shorts?
Do so and drop me a comment down below. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, let's get over to the topic. When I make this statement, let me be clear.
Oh, I forgot. We're in your house, so we can't ask you certain questions because we're in your house. You're a special a minion online and all that, right? We can make videos on you, but we can't question you on your own channel in your live feed. You're so special. You should be so lucky people are even watching you live. They just want to see the silliness. That's all. They're bored watching you walking around. Some old fat dude walking around the street with a weighted vest and going live on a cell phone, talking to himself.
I like dumbbells, I like machines, I even like bands, right?
Yeah.
These are all things I use. These are all things I use for my clients. But I am going to...
Yeah, you know, the funny, he has all these things, these rubber bands and this and that and whatever. You know, I only need one thing. I only need one thing, eccentric exercises. That's it. Multiple eccentrics. That's it. And I'll be much further, much faster, way better than him. I don't even need weights, man. I can use my body. I literally can go to a park. They have a bar, they have a dip, they have a bench, and they have 2 metal bars. My shoulders, it's really easy. Standing up, doing shoulders. And you can start with all negatives first to get you really strong. So you do your body weight. You do all negatives until their muscles start building up and the strength builds up. You get bigger, you get stronger, and then you start moving for more eccentric overloads. Yeah, instead of just a negative, you have partial eccentrics, whatever you want to call them, moving in real time. And that'll just make you better and better. You can add more sets, more sets. You can add a weighted belt with weights for the dips and for the pull-ups. And you could do variations in pull-ups, actually. So you could do close grip, wide grip, reverse grips. You could do all kinds of things. Supinated. There's so many things that you can do on there. Also, they have these bars where you could actually not just dips, but you can pull for your back as well. You understand me? You could do your back area. So you can pull your back up and down, you know, stretching it in and out. So, yeah, there's quite a few things that you could do there in the park, really. You'd be surprised what you could do. You can do your biceps on there. You can do many things with just body weight exercises if I didn't have any weights at all whatsoever, because that would be all, really I'd just be focused on the eccentric there, and I'd still be a lot further and stronger than Blaha.
Tend to promote barbell exercises as our primary base builders, and I believe it's for a very, very good reason.
Okay.
You know, both historical reasons as well as results. Again, it's been my experience.
Yeah.
That people who do most of their building on machines are, quite frankly, how do I put it, oftentimes weak, they're oftentimes fragile, higher injury rates, they can't always function.
Machines, they're for like older people, dude. You know that? That's what they're really meant for.
Sometimes weak, they're oftentimes fragile, higher injury rates, they can't always function the way that we would like, all right? So
Weak, fragile, whatever. Yeah, you mean they're aging? Is that that's what you're talking about? They're aging, yes. Okay, we're aging, yeah.
even if they are building muscle, and again, most of the guys who are pretty jacked off just machines tend to use a lot of drugs, and I'm just going to leave that there without going any further.
How do you know if you're building muscle? Here, I got a question for all you. How do you know you're building muscle and not forced production? How do you know you're building forced production and not muscle? How do you know? Like, how do you know? See what I mean? What do you know? How do you know you're not building sarcoplasmic as opposed to myofibrillar growth? Or how do you know? How do you know if you're building myofibrillar and not sarcoplasmic? How do you know if you're building sarcoplasmic, not myofibrillar? See what I mean? Get it? You understand what I'm trying to explain to you? How do you know? Like, how do you know? It's not hard to know because there's only two movements. There's concentric and eccentric. Eccentric, concentric. What does eccentric do? What does concentric do? How much can you lift in the eccentric as opposed to the concentric? And what does concentric, what is the adaptation in the eccentric? Well, muscles and what? Parallel and series, these sarcomeres. Okay. What else is there? More force production, more motor unit recruitment, more type 2 muscle fibers. Okay. Now, what's the adaptation in concentric? Well, it's associated with a loss of these sarcomeres in series. So they're shortening, and so they're aligning. They're not building muscle. You're aligning them in parallel, so you can exude more force production. So they line up. You're squeezing them. They line up better as they're being squeezed. When they're being squeezed under pressure, they line up properly for more force production in the opposite direction, going towards out of space. That's what it does. Does it adapt by? Does the concentric by squeezing muscles adapt by building muscles in parallel and series? No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do any of that. It will align it, and it will actually, there will be a loss in series. So there you go. That's how it adapts. It gives you more force production. How? Well, it'll arrange these things and give you more of these androgen receptors for maximal force production. What do they say in PubMed? Myocytic androgen receptor controls the strength, but not the mass of the limb muscles. Okay. So what controls the mass of the limb muscles? Eccentric exercise. What controls a lot of that force production? A lot of the maximal force production? Myocytic androgen receptor. Well, there you go. Okay, so what does concentric do? Nothing really. It just gives you force in the opposite direction. Recruits motor units and force production in the opposite. So it makes you better at lifting concentrically. See what I mean? But when people try to lift concentrically thinking they're going to build a muscle, wow, they're really crazy. You really need to see a doctor, a psychiatrist.
Explain that further, but this has been my experience over the decades. But the other thing to think about, I mean, we see some of these guys who...
it's like people, they'll do videos, they don't really know much about lifting, and they'll say, you know what, you shouldn't be squatting eccentrically all the way to the bottom and up. What? That doesn't make any sense. And then they're like, you should be squatting like these powerlifters doing concentric squats. Well, no, you should not be doing that. It's not based on regeneration. You'll deteriorate doing that, and it'll shorten your muscles. You understand me? You'll always be weak in the eccentric. So if your focus is to be super strong, like I'm talking about you physically super strong, then you want to do eccentric exercises. You do not want to focus on anything concentric. You're just wasting your time. It'll exhaust you. You're not going to go anywhere fast.
Train almost exclusively on machines, and then when they do anything, they get hurt. And I even see them get hurt on machines. Look at the max you see.
They get hurt on machines. They exclusively do machines. I don't know who's doing that. Maybe these people are rehabilitating themselves. They're crippled or something. They're really, really old and frail. Maybe they haven't done anything in such a long time. What happens is this: when you don't activate the satellite cell, it's in quiescence. So your regenerative, how should I put it? Regeneration is impaired in these people. It becomes impaired. You know, you understand what I'm trying to explain to you? It becomes impaired. That's why you end up with all these injuries all the time. You get injured because you're weak. Like Blaha, he gets injured. They talk about this. Even Larry Wheels recently in a new video right now, he's with who is it? Jay Cutler. They're talking right now in a video, and they're talking about being injured all the time, injuries, this, that. Jay Cutler, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Doesn't know what builds muscle. He took drugs. He lifts, but he took drugs. And so does Larry Wheels. And he says, Larry Wheels, what do you think about your strength and all that? What strength? Larry Wheels injects strength in him. It's like you got two crackheads talking to each other. Oh, how's your crack? What does your crack do for you? Oh, my crack does this for me. Oh, my crack does that for me. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Good thing. All right, guy knocked out of the gym for months is nothing but a machine trainer from an injury he got on machines. But again, I'm not...
Well, Jeff Nippard got an injury on a machine. What does that say about Jeff Nippard? I mean, he was lifting for a whole year, and he ended up with the same weight. Nothing changed. He was the same weight. So what did he do? Nothing. He wasted his time because he doesn't know anything. And people find that video impressive. They're impressed. Oh, look at Jeff Nippard. He did this thing with his brother. They exercised for a whole year, but they don't really understand. At the end of the video, he was the same weight he started at. Did he actually produce anything? Did he accomplish anything? No. What he did was, yeah, he did accomplish something. He accomplished. He confirmed that there were no gains, zero gains, waste of time. Yeah.
Saying machines aren't useful. What I'm saying is big barbell movements are our base builders.
Look at him.
Okay?
Look how he throws the weight up. He's just throwing it up. He's just throwing it with his arms. Look.
Our base builders. And it's for good reason.
It's not isolated at all. It's not doing anything. It just makes you better at throwing this weight up in the air.
Because of, number one, the ability to utilize large amounts of muscles all at one time. It improves training efficiency.
Okay.
In other words, there is enough spillover that you can get away with significantly lower volumes. In other words, if you're doing squat, bench, deadlift, rows,
right,
things like that, overhead pressing, you have covered so many wide variety of muscles that got at least some training stimulus that they will grow from, that it allows you to mitigate your overall volume. Okay, so that's something that has to be factored in here. In other words, I'll go so far as to say, so that when I say things like a lot of times lifters can get away with, only 6 sets a week and still get pretty dang jacked, it's because there's so much overlap in these big movements, right? I mean, even here, doing a power curl, right? I'm doing power curls here. This is obviously not a strict curl, not intended to be a strict curl. How many muscles are getting worked here? How many muscles are getting worked because of the weight?
He's just throwing the weight up in the air. What's getting worked? I don't know. Just throwing. Okay. I'm not saying this is bad. You can play with the weight and throw the weight up, but I don't know, man. I don't see anything going on here.
We're even using on this enough so they're going to grow. How many muscles of the upper back and shoulder are getting some stimulus, some extra forearm stimulus?
Okay.
You wouldn't be getting on a curl. While still working the biceps. And this is what we mean, big barbell.
Is his physique just getting worse? Like, it's actually getting worse. Isn't it supposed to be getting better? But in his case, it's getting worse. It's all this concentric lifting that he's doing. I told you, it's not associated with muscle growth. Concentric lifting is not associated with muscle growth. If anything, you lose muscle and then you increase the sarcoplasm. And so you start looking droopy. You have man boobs and stuff. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is going to give you man boobs and shit.
Like I would throw the power curl in there as a big compound movement, right?
Just sarcoplasmic training makes you look very bad. It doesn't make you look great.
But just look at a back squat. So look at the amount of muscles that have to be engaged. Obviously, the glutes, quads, and adductors.
Have you seen these old school off-season, even new school off-season bodybuilders, what they look like when they're off-season? That's sarcoplasmic. They look horrendously terrible.
Grow the most.
Yeah. Thank God for anabolics, right? Then they switch from androgenic to anabolics. Well, if they didn't have that, that would be it for them.
They grow the most, but there have been studies showing that other muscles grow from the squat. Are they large amounts of growth?
Other muscles grow from the squat. If there's no damage, there's no growth. If there's no damage, there's no growth. I can't say that there's no expansion here because there's weight on your back, a heavy weight on your back due to gravity. There could be something going on there, but not a lot. You still need to damage your muscles for them to grow.
Are they enough to measure? Yeah, they're measurable in the lab.
See, he just went down. It was a partial concentric rep, and he bounced. A little bit of trouble going up, but can you imagine if it was eccentric? He'd be dead at the bottom with that weight.
A lot of the muscles in your back, your hamstring.
He cannot squat that eccentrically. The most he could probably do is one plate eccentrically. Want to know why? Because he doesn't train eccentrically. So that's why I say he should be so lucky if he could do one plate eccentrically for a couple of reps. Now, as far as those plates he did right now, he never could do that. He can't do that eccentrically, not even 405. He can't do it for a full concentric. I dare Blaha to do this, what he's doing right now, for a full eccentric squat. Blaha, if you're listening, let's see you do it. Okay, if you're so strong. I would love to see you do it.
your calves will all grow from squatting. They're not the primary movers.
Okay.
Same thing with the deadlift. Like a lot of times people will say, well, you know, the deadlift is really only growing the hamstrings and the glutes, except that deadlift is really only growing the hamstrings and the glutes, except that at least one study looking at squat and deadlift hypertrophy found that the deadlift built a lot of upper body muscle, a lot of muscle through the back.
Yeah, around you're talking about the upper back area, like the trap area and stuff like that. Yeah. Did it build it? You mean it caused heavy stretches on it, lifting, deadlifting? Yeah, it's a heavy weight. It's got to cause some tearing in there, so it has to go through repair and remodeling. So of course it will build some muscle there, not a lot, and it'll adapt eventually.
And the test subjects grew significantly and measurably, like when they
Well,
just
yeah,
did
because they're lifting an astronomically heavy weight off the floor. Hello.
the overall scan, they didn't go muscle.
And that's that right there. When he was lifting going up, you could consider that somewhat. I don't know. It's okay. You're holding the weight, so it's isometric. All right, let's put it this way. You're holding onto the bar, so it is isometric, right? You're not moving, so it's isometric. Can isometric build muscle? Well, isometric, if you're holding an astronomically heavy weight, it'll cause an enormous amount of stretch on the shoulder, forearm, and trap area, the upper part of the body. So it'll exude a very heavy stretch on there. Now, depending on how many sets, I don't know, reps you're doing, or how long you're standing there in an isometric hold. See what I mean? Will it cause some damage in the fibers of that fiber because you're holding a very heavy weight? Yes, it will cause something. Get it? Isometrically, definitely. Okay, but it has to be very heavy, very, very heavy. Like some people have done them online. They get some stuff. So yeah, so what is the superiority of, let's just say we call it the superiority of a deadlift? What can it do that is I don't know, that it, man, in terms of building muscle, okay, it will cause a heavy stretch on this area, the trap area, shoulder, arms, whatever, these areas, okay, upper body. See what I mean? Now you're lowering it in the eccentric. So you're picking it up, going up, kind of like you're going up in an eccentric, yet it's isometric. Your legs, really not much there. There's not much going on there. There'll be something there on the side part of the ham, between the ham and the quad, hamstring and the quad. There's some growth there. Yeah, I don't know, because there's some stretching going on there. And then, I mean, of course, if you're lowering it, they're going to get more benefits out of it, but they're just dropping it. But there are benefits just lifting it up. See what I mean? Because gravity is weighing you down with a heavy weight.
Muscle, they just scanned the whole body. Like, man, the upper body, these guys all gained a measurable amount of muscle in the upper body from doing only the deadlift. So this is what we...
Yeah, but not a light deadlift, a very astronomically heavy deadlift, Blaha. Then they got something, because you can consider that an overload. You understand me? Look, you can always pull very heavy. You can pull astronomically heavy. That's why people pull deadlift. They pull heavy deadlifts. So yeah, would you get something out of it? Of course you would.
There's a tremendous amount of carryover. In other words, if you use a lot of these big barbell movements, and particularly we start throwing weighted body weight stuff in, my God, weighted pull-ups or chin-ups, weighted dips,
Okay.
all right? You start adding this stuff to the equation.
Some people call it static holds. We call it isometric holds. People use isometrics for many things, yeah, they use them for many things, isometrics. They're good too as well.
there's only a few muscles left that didn't get worked pretty well. So then you can come behind it and refine everything else and go, well, did my rear delts or side delts get enough work? I could isolate them. Maybe the long head of my tricep didn't get enough work. I could isolate it, okay? Except that we can do big barbell movements for the triceps too, can't we? Closed grip benching, extensions. Yeah.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Discount all those extensions we can do, right? And we can do those with a normal barbell. I use an easy bar most of the time, but a barbell works perfectly fine for those, doesn't it? In fact, sometimes I prefer to do that, just for the sake of ease of setting it up, instead of trying to put a heavy loaded 100+ pound easy bar into a set of hooks. Just saying, guys. You know, we have options there. You know, but by that same token, then we can come through with dumbbells and cables and machines and fix everything else. I think machines particularly have their place for the lower body. So when I make that statement, like, this is our base building, but, you know, you guys will see me do.
Again, he's using his arms, not an arm exercise, a back exercise, but he'll never understand this.
Belt squats and things. I advocate leg presses. I use a reverse hyper every week. Big fan of the reverse hyper.
He doesn't even know how to isolate body parts.
Okay? So we have these other tools in our toolbox. But the big barbell lifts are going to be our foundation, and then
We have these tools in our toolbox, but you don't know how to use the tools. That's a problem.
we'll put the most muscle and strength on you. And anyone who says they don't care about strength, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
I do care about strength. That's why I do eccentric exercise. It's a lot stronger than concentric. It's stronger than concentric. Eccentric, yeah.
Don't even hang with the old school OG bodybuilders then. That's, to me, I come from a different...
Oh, yeah, the OG bodybuilders. You know what's becoming popular? Calisthenics. Its popularity is going up. I don't know. Maybe people got bored of breakdancing, doing flares and shit and all that. So they are taking up a lot of the body weight stuff because they don't need a gym. You can do it anywhere, in a street, anywhere, and they know they realize that the eccentric, because it's mostly eccentric work, the calisthenics, so it gets you jacked because the multiple stretches causing damage will go through a regeneration, the muscles, and you'll get gains, you'll get jacked gains, you'll be pretty strong, definitely really strong in the eccentric. And then eventually, I guess, they get these weighted belts, and then they can add, like, you know, I don't know, these, like, crude weights or something. They found some metal things, and they just put them on there, and they just use that. So do you need a gym? Not, like I said, not necessarily. See what I mean? A weighted belt, and, I don't know, some these, like, weights you could find somewhere in the trash even, like metal plates and shit. You can use them and put them on there and... Go to a park and do them there. They're everywhere. There's parks here where I live. They have all kinds of calisthenic stuff set up in the park. The government put them there for people to do that. Do you need a gym? No, you don't need a gym, really. People don't realize that building muscle is not, you could build muscle without a gym. You don't need weights to build a muscle. You need stretches, stretching exercise, but multiple stretches. Now, to get weaker, deeper muscle fibers to regenerate more sarcomeres in parallel series, well, yeah, you would probably most likely have to lift heavier in the eccentric. You understand me? To regenerate more of them. Will you get more of them quicker than just doing body weight? Well, yeah, yes and no. I don't know. It depends, right? Like I said, not necessarily, because once it adapts to the body weight, you need weights now, right? To get more if you want more of it.
Generation of guys where the bodybuilders all cared about what they could squat and what they could bench. Like, and I'm talking to guys who were competing in bodybuilding, guys who cared about their physique. There was a
real bodybuilders that lift eccentrically can bench, lift heavy, man. I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about drug people again, these phony bodybuilders.
Different mindset 25 years ago.
Look, if you're injecting drugs, you're not bodybuilding, you're injecting drugs. You understand me? You're going to a gym lifting weights, but you're not bodybuilding because you've injected drugs. And now you keep lifting the way you were lifting before, failing. And you think all of a sudden that steroids have the magic power that it overcame this adaptation process, like it magically built you muscles. Like I reached my genetic, I love this one. I reached my genetic limit, all right, or wherever, newbie gain limit, genetic limit. And so I have to, no, you didn't reach a genetic limit. What you did was, what happened was you became adapted. You're not lifting eccentrically. That's what happened. And so you're like, well, I reached my genetic limit. So now, no, you didn't. You failed because you're lifting conventionally. And then you go, I have to take steroids now because I reached my genetic limit. So you take steroids and you lift in the same way you lifted before conventionally. Get it? Garbage training.
Dudes,
But all of a sudden you are getting gains. What kind of gains are you getting? What kind of gains are you getting lifting conventionally like you did previously, but you took steroids? Something changed. You understand me? Drugs. It's cosmetic. You're not gaining myofibrillar growth. You're building sarcoplasmic, but you don't realize that.
in the gym still caring about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Except that a lot of times bodybuilders who care about other lifts, man. I bet you I could incline bench more than you.
Oh, yeah.
They cared about this stuff.
They don't care about that stuff. The people that bodybuild, I told you, it was sports people that bodybuild. They had gyms. In high school, they had gyms. Who used them? Football players, swimmers, football players, soccer players. They used the gym. What did they use the gym for? To build muscle. So that would make them stronger, better, more agility and stuff without getting injured. It would make them stronger so they wouldn't get injured. See what I mean? That's what bodybuilding really is. They perverted bodybuilding into making it like these guys on a stage looking pretty in the past. And then they took these drugs, whatever, and they call it bodybuilding. That's not bodybuilding. If you're injecting drugs, you're not bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is based on building your body. And what modality builds your body in lifting? Eccentric. Eccentric exercise. Concentric does not do that. See what I mean?
Rightly so. They should. Right? They should care.
Look, you may not realize that. So you're lifting conventionally, concentric, eccentric, and you got some gains out of that eccentric, but now it's adapted in your full range of motion. You don't know how to get out of it.
So that's and I think that's very much the point here that needs to be made. Very much the point that needs to be made. They cared. So you cannot stand there and pull this, well, I'm bodybuilding. No, dude, you're just being lazy. You're lazy and you don't want to get in and do some real work. Get under a barbell. All right? I promise you it will make you thick. And that's the other thing. There's a difference in that thickness. Because so many of these other muscles get built, things like all the stuff in the traps and the mid-back and everything, when you're doing all the barbell movement, right? There's a difference between someone who is stronger or not, and you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell.
I love this. You can tell. No, you can't tell. You're not really sure. You're not really sure. Depends.
And anyone who argues against that, you guys all know when you're hanging out. You can talk on the internet, but when you guys are hanging out and you bump into dudes and it's all dudes who lift, the dudes who look really strong, you already know there's a totally different respect they get in person. And you guys know that.
Oh, they lift really strong. They get a totally different respect in person. Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever, Blaha.
You've hung around with other lifters. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.
Yeah, it's been very informative. Whatever, man. That video went so long. This guy, they can't stop talking.